Alright, so we're out here to do a test of how the car performs currently with the 034 upper and lower insert and Dogbone spherical Dogbone arm. When I say test, what I mean is we're going to launch the car and give impressions on how it feels, any sensations that are there, and then after we upgrade to the Unitronic one, or change over to the Unitronic one, we're going to do the same thing and see if there's any variance. Specifically, we're looking for any wheel hop sensations, any characteristics that might stand out as stiffer or more harsh, and we'll try to give our best input. I really wish we could turn traction control all the way off.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we tried to warm up the tires ahead of time too, and really the car is making enough juice where launching a front wheel drive car is a little tedious with street tires. However, feels pretty good, feels pretty solid. There's no hopping that's happening. Anything that is occurring is spin. And one thing that I have noted previously is that this particular spherical arm is solid and quiet, whereas others that I've seen are really noisy. So everything as it is feels good, sounds good, and we'll have to give a test with the Unitronic one. With the way that it's built, I think it's going to yield to a smoother feel, but just as solid. So I guess we'll see once we get it put in there. This is what we have removed, and the way that this one is, this being the top, yep, this being the bottom. Dogbone arm goes through, Dogbone mount sits in here, for the insert rather, and the upper insert sits in front and fills the void up here so that these don't move as much. However, with the new setup, it completely fills the void and makes it so everything is essentially solid. So it should be really simple to get in. I was gonna pull out the old one, but we decided just to cut it out. I'm gonna go ahead and get everything lubed up, and we should just be able to get it installed. So we'll get going. So the bushing has to line up with where the Dogbone arm goes through, and you can be very close and still have it be a pain to get in there. As we come up onto the second part here, you'll have to make sure that everything stays in line and is happy and healthy, because the front tabs coming up now rather than being pushed in are gonna have to fight this lip. And it may be okay, but it may also give us a little bit of trouble. So we shall see right now. But it all looks like smooth sailing right now. Oh, it's beautiful. Perfect. We are getting close. We're about 2 millimeters away from where we're supposed to be. And
Now we're perfect.
alright, so quick note, getting the top hook in after installation can be quite tedious. So if you're using a tool that secures it from the top to suck it up, that's one thing. If you're just pushing it up from the bottom, that's a whole nother, and you won't have a problem. Put it in assembled. As far as how we've got it, everything is square and lined up. I was able to fish the upper plate in underneath the sway bar. It's completely disconnected. We did not unbolt our subframe at all. So this can be done, some tools will definitely help with. So we'll put in our bottom insert here, and we're ready to get our arms together. And actually, ours should be in place well enough where everything is static, being that we've got the BFI staged absolutely extreme solid mount setup. They make a special insert that can only be ordered as an addition to some of their mounts, and they are basically solid, so it keeps the engine from rocking back and forth at all when we disconnect the subframe arm, and really holds the whole assembly in place quite nicely. I actually have a lot of faith that it would probably hold it in place just fine without the subframe mount because of how stiff they are. So that looks like it's lined up, but we'll check. We've got a little bolt to use from Unitronic. It's a very coarse thread, and it comes with a sprung lock washer. It's concave, and so when you put pressure on it, it will flatten out and keep tension on it. Now I am gonna have to find out what the torque specs are for that, but we're gonna get that torque down. Well, we have the new Unitronic subframe mount and pendulum arm installed, and we have used the RS3 race inserts, so it's as stiff as stiff gets. So far, there's not too much of a change versus what the other setup was feeling like, but we're gonna push it to the limits and see if we notice anything during the launch. We did add sway bar end links when we did this because they had been taken off with the air ride setup, but that improved the feel of the car immensely, so now it turns the way that it should. But hopefully this will give us some butt information as far as if there's any difference in feel with this setup versus what we were using before. There's some differences as far as the actual pendulum arm not using the spherical mount. Right now we've got the OEM portion, the front part that bolts up to the transmission on there, tied in with the billet arm from Unitronic, rather than the 034 spherical mount that was on there before. So that is one thing that would be not as stiff. However, the actual subframe mount seems to be much more solid. It, however, from what I can tell, should dampen really well because of the fact that it is all urethane and it's not going to be really vibrating any metal components. So let's see what she does. Oh, we're gonna scare this guy, poor guy. It did feel stiffer.
It did, honestly.
It's hard to launch this car with the traction intervention. But that being said, it did feel different. There wasn't as much movement, and it didn't feel harsh. Kind of like what I was thinking. It felt really, really strong, stiff, and stable, but didn't have any back and forth. And
Yeah,
I think that even with the metal inserts, there's still room for some movement, and this just kind of eats all that slop up. Now I know what you're gonna say, but it's expensive. But it's high quality products, man. All of this is billet aluminum, and the way it installs is really simple and straightforward. For example, I run a racing line one in mine, and it's billet aluminum that has to be pressed into the subframe. It's way more difficult to get installed, and it's a real pain in the neck compared to this one. I'm a big fan, and most likely will be swapping over myself.